Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Shitbox to Beast, where we take this 1988 GLi Twincam Toyota and we turn it from a shitbox into a beast on the road. So, in the previous episode, we introduced the car to you and spoke to you about all the things that were wrong with the car, and we now have an update. The car is standing at AED, Auto Electrodynamics, in Airport Industrial, where they have done so far 80% of all of the rewiring. So in the previous video, you saw that the wiring was a massive issue, and it looked like this and like this. And we had engine bay problems, interior wiring problems. The dictator management was, the loom of that was mixed into the standard loom of the car. It was a whole mess. And this here is all of the wiring that came out of the car. Excess wiring, problems, relays, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I want to show you what it looks like now and diving into an update on what still needs to be done. Righto. So let's talk a little bit about what came out of the car and what is going into the car and what work has already been done. Alright, so as you can see on my right hand side, there is a sump and then a box of wiring and then the struts. So let's start with this bunch of wiring here. You see this mess? This was the loom of the car, which is a mixture of like self-made wiring shortcuts that they took, full of fuses and relays. It was completely unnecessary. And then the dictator loom was merged with the old loom of the car, and that caused a lot of problems. So as you know, the dictator is in control of 4 major functions of the car: firing, air control, fueling control, and the fuel pump, right? So unfortunately, the spark of the car was not correlating to the dictator properly, and that was causing the car to short out and die on me all the time. And that's because of poor wiring decisions. So this mess here is literally a mixture of stuff that was stripped out of the car only from the engine bay. And as you saw previously in the photos, which I'll put up here again, this was between the headlights, behind the headlights, behind the fuse box, all along the motor. Some of it was melted because it wasn't insulated properly, etc., etc. This problem has now been eliminated, and I will show you what it looks like under the bonnet now after it's been rewired by that guy sitting there scratching his pop, Uncle Afif, which is the main auto electrician here at AED. Now next, unfortunately, our sump has been modified. I don't know if you can see, I'm going to show you underneath the car. The sump has a weld on it. I don't know if you can see that. There's a weld on the sump. Lord knows why the sump is welded. And as you can see, we have an oil leak there. So we are surmising that the oil leak is there as a result of poor workmanship, poor sealing of the sump and modification to the sump. But we also think that the crank seal is leaking as well. But we still have to strip the motor for mechanical. Anyways, this here is the struts that were in the car. They look quite good. But I think that the shocks were shortened and the springs were cut because the car's wheel arches were basically touching the wheel. Even if I had to drive over a stone, it would make a massive, massive noise, and it sounded disgusting, like I'm scraping the whole undercarriage of the car on the floor. So that has now been changed, and they've now eliminated the old struts with this makeshift lowering kit that they had, and it's now running on standard. Okay, so this is taken out, that is taken out and replaced, and this is going in. So this is the sump of a 4AFE motor, right? This, as we know, is a 4AGE, but apparently the blocks are the same, and the sump hopefully will fit because I cannot find a twin cam sump. So let's take a deep dive into what has been done in the car, and let me show you the amazing transformation of the engine bay. Alright though, check at this massive, massive update. Look at that. So that space was full of wiring and it looked absolutely disgusting. And as you'll notice, something's missing, and that is the coil pack. They've actually relocated the coil pack in front of the radiator here with customized brackets. The next thing they did was they removed the fan from the radiator, and it was at the back of the radiator over here, right? It was located over there, but it was in the way and the wiring was in the way as well. So they used customized brackets that run towards the lights. I don't know if you can see that. There's another custom bracket that runs towards the light. The coil pack and the fan and the headlight is kind of mounted on that bracket, and the fan has been moved to the front. The wiring of the fan was literally a loose wire on the battery terminal and a wire onto the fuse box, which was speaker wire. Remember that? Anyways, the wires that were all laying here loose are now in trunking, and the old loom has been eliminated completely, and the new loom has been reconnected to the dictator properly. Also, this was disgusting. So the plugs on the throttles here or on the injectors were open and the wires were literally exposed. They've got new plugs on each injector, sealed, in trunking and properly insulated. Absolutely beautiful. And that whole mess of wires that was laying there, running along here, all of that wiring has now been eliminated completely, and this is how it looks now. Absolutely stunning. Behind the battery was also a massive amount of wiring, and the lights were connected in a very crap way to the fuse box. I'll show you now. So they were tapping into the fuse box, they were running wiring underneath and on top, onto the battery, onto the fuse box. That was crazy, disgusting and bad and a disaster waiting to happen. That has now been completely eliminated, and the fuse box is actually running what it is supposed to be running at the moment. So this is the work that has been done so far. The car's wiring inside the engine bay is virtually complete, and everything that needs to run in here is running in here at the moment. I love that the strut braces are matching the engine bay, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful. You see that hole over there? We are missing a window wiper motor. Please, if you have one or if you know somebody that has one that can couple us one, then let me know, please, because we are circling to find proper original parts. And when we find them, very expensive. Very, very expensive. So yeah, the engine bay, please, in the comment section, rate my engine bay out of 10. The distributor is fixed and working. They opened it and serviced it as well. That's the guy there. Uncle Afif, say hello. Uncle Afif is a legend. But some surprise purchases for you guys. This here is original Twincam 16 valve new spec wet look beadings. This cost me 2,000 rand, my bro. And then this here is the radio console, because my one is broken in pieces. So just have a look at my one. I'll show you inside of the car. That's where my radio console is supposed to be, and that's how disgusting it looks. I'll talk a bit more about the mess that's happening inside the car. We'll get there now. And then this is my grille. Unfortunately, this Twincam grille is broken there, and you can see some mild cracks on it as well, because it has been previously plastic welded and it is broken. But we're gonna have to make it work for now, because finding these parts is extremely difficult. The reason why I have this trunking on here is because none of that mess here was properly insulated and or in trunking. So they've actually included a lot of proper trunking in there. Then we've got this roll here, and that is for silver beadings, and that is very simple. That goes on the bumpers here in front. As you can see, mine are rather damaged and they are broken halfway on the front bumper. And let me just show you the back bumper quickly. The back bumper's one is also dull, rough spots on it. Some of it is already got a lot of sun wear on it, and then there was a portion of it that was also missing, and that is basically what the back bumper's condition looks like. Sorry for all the noise if you can hear it. I am in a workshop, so I'm working as best as I can with the noise levels that we have. Righto, let's go on to the internals here. So this mess here at the moment is being figured out so they can understand what is for what needs to be eliminated, what needs to be fixed. And then the cluster has been fixed. So the rev counter was stucking at 500 RPM for Lord knows what reason, and it wasn't working. While the oil light and the engine light weren't working, they are now working, but the engine light isn't supposed to work because it's linked to a dictator system. The heat gauge is working, the fuel gauge is working, the battery light and the fuel light is working. Unfortunately, the odometer is not working at the moment, but everything that needs to work in here, including the indicators and the hazards lights, does work. I know this looks like a mess, but it's an organized mess. So the dictator, I'll show you where it was. Previously, it was mounted underneath the cubby. It is now mounted behind the cubby. This is the dictator wiring control loom system. What is this here? This black thing? The igniter module. There's Uncle Afif, the guy behind the whole situation here. And then this here is the dictator, the standard dictator system that we were running. So this loom is now sorted and properly running. Now the car was not starting when we got here. Uncle Afif, can we start the car, Kanala? You know you want to?
Nah.
So the car wasn't starting, remember? Okay, there's the fuel pump. There we go. The dictator lights are working. Rev counter is working.
Rev him for us. Oh, very rich. How do you feel?
With my hands.
Very good, very nice. So we actually discovered, now that we started up the car, look what happened. There's an oil leak, and we're surmising that it's either the crank seal or the cam seals. You can actually hear it as the car is cooling down, so that's a mechanical issue that we still need to get to, but the mechanical is next on the list, and that's part of the whole situation that we will be dealing with in the next episode. But for now, auto electronics sorted by this guy, the legend, the AED master auto electrician. How many years are you in the game now? 40, 30 years in the game. Very good, very nice. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening inside the car. So the dictator system is a standard dictator. That's the ignition part of the dictator. And as you know, previously it was located under the cubbyhole in plain view for everyone to see. Now we're going to be mounting it behind the cubby properly, after it's been properly wired into its original condition and in the right place to the right parts of the engine without the standard loom in the mix. Next, look at this thing over here. So that is where this comes in that I just bought. That is where this comes in that I just bought. I just bought this from a guy that strips these cars. That's gonna go in there for the radio because of this whole situation. Now, if you're an AE82 fan, you'll know, if you are a wetlook fan, that this flap that goes over here, nobody has. Okay, we are finding one. I have a lead on one, but I don't know exactly when it's going to be arriving, but this is going to be found. And then this baby over here is a 3D printed customized gear knob that was made for me by MD Proto. Shout out to Mujahid from MD Proto. That's gonna go onto here when I eventually figure out how I'm gonna do it, because this little housing here must come off, and then that goes in there. And he's quite innovative because he actually put a little hole in there with a grub screw to fasten onto the actual shaft so that it doesn't pop off every time. And then this year, yeah, I found one like this, for 1,500 rand. But geld is a bit scarce. Now this is a common problem, that the hinge breaks over there because it's plastic and it's wobbly. But mine, the condition of mine is not too bad. It's not so scratched up like the ones that you've seen previously or on other cars. I am looking for these little things that go on here, but those are all aesthetic related stuff. And then also the steering wheel is a little bit wobbly, but we found out why. It's because this bracket over here hasn't been fastened properly and it's missing two bolts. So it's 3 bolts that must go in there. One there, and one underneath. We only have one underneath and not the other 2 here. And then we have another problem with the ignition of the car. Let's go to the other side quickly. Alrighty, so we were just speaking about the ignition, right? The problem with the ignition is you can take this key out while the car is driving, as per old Toyotas, which is a common problem. So we need a whole new barrel and lock system so that we don't have issues with the car being stolen by starting with a screwdriver. So if you have a lead for me on a barrel and lock system, please let me know in the comment section. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, we do have a little bit of problem still with the rev counter. It isn't resetting back to 0 all the time. Sometimes it stays on 500 RPM, but we're working on that. The whole cluster has been taken out and removed, and this wiring mess within the next few days will be fixed. Okay, so now that we know where the car was and now where the car is after that, we need to talk about the way forward, right? So in the future, we need to discuss 3 main things. The first thing is we have to look at aesthetics. So from an aesthetic perspective, we have interior trim pieces and exterior trim pieces that need to go on the car. And like I showed you previously, I got this beauty.
This set me back 2,500 rand alone for the original spec that comes out on the wetlook. This is the old spec, and it says Twincam 16, and these trim pieces are missing from the car, so we had to buy this for 2,500. We weren't gonna find it anywhere else for cheaper anyways, because nobody stocks them new or second hand unless people are stripping these cars. So, and we also have additional trim pieces on the inside of the car. Now, we do have somebody that stripped a few of these cars. One is Uncle Adil in Surrey Estate, the other one is Proppy, also from Surrey Estate. But these things cost a lot of money, and we need to kind of work with the very limited budget that we have right now on focusing on what is important, right? Now, on the motor itself, we obviously found that the car is leaking oil, and we don't know whether that is the cam seals or the crank seals, so we're just going to replace both. But we might as well open the motor first and diagnose top to bottom all of the things that are potentially wrong with the motor, including all the gaskets, etc., etc. The head needs to be looked at because I think the shims do need to be adjusted as well. And generally, we just need to work on a few things. Because remember, normal cars, they have the valves. This car has shims, which works a little bit differently, and those need to be set and worked on to a degree where they obviously run optimally on the car as well. And then going forward, some people are saying turbo or supercharge the car. Either which way, we're going to need to forge the internals of the motor for that. But performance enhancement and performance for much more power is something on the cards for later on. We just want to get the car driving and becoming a daily so that it can actually serve the purpose of getting me around, okay? But if we're going to go turbo or supercharge, I don't know. What do we do? Guys, tell me in the comment section, turbo or supercharge or what? I do have sponsors coming on board for that as well, but we're going to be negotiating with them about the performance enhancement. The next thing that the car immediately needs is a tune, and for that we are going to be going to Performance Solutions CPT, aka PS Cape Town. For those people who don't know him, Uncle Siraj is a legend in the game. He does most of the 2J conversions, and he's currently running the fastest Nissan Champ with the 2J in SA right now, and he will be performing the tuning on this car in his workshop. And if you don't know him, he's got the silver Mark III Supra, this baby over here. So who better to trust than Uncle Siraj from PSCPT to actually tune the car? By the way, the tuning currently needed for the car is it doesn't have a map for idling or for fueling or for basically running the car. When the car runs, if I drive from Ottery to Lansdowne and back, it consumes like 150 Rand petrol. It is insanely heavy on juice. And as you saw earlier when we revved it, lots and lots of black smoke, which means the car is running rich right now. Okay, so now that we know where the car was, where the car is, and what direction we are heading into, I want to tell you about these amazing sponsors that came on board that can benefit you massively when it comes to your car. This company, AED, one of the main sponsors, did all of the auto electrical work here. Uncle Afif is the main auto electrician that worked on the car. That's part of a massively dynamic team of professional people with years of experience in the auto trade industry. They will allow you to pay off your mechanical and or auto electrical and or aircon related repairs, maintenance, service and repairs done on cars besides bodywork, everything in between. You can pay it off over 3 equal installments, interest free with PayFlex, and they have a loyalty program where you can save up to 60% on labor and 50% on parts. You pay much less. You also get various other perks like free diagnostic, aircon repair and regas, as well as a free emergency service for you and your family if you are signed up to this package. Another sponsor, Frontline Towing, for getting the car anywhere and everywhere in Cape Town right now, from my home to AED, for example, because the car can't drive without stucking or whatever the case may be. And then also Joe's Motor City or Joe's Automotive Spares for coming on board with the plug leads and the plugs, and he's got new back tail lights for me and a few other things waiting. So thank you so much to him, and also to any other sponsors that are in negotiation going forward to come on board with the project. So if you'd like to be a sponsor on the Shitbox to Beast series with the GLi Twincam, let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok, and DM me any contributions that you would like to make for the car in exchange for some exposure. Other than that, thank you so much for following us. Please click the like button. Please consider subscribing to get notifications so you know when the new project updates are going to come in, and we'll be doing some YouTube shorts as well, just for little updates along the way. But further than that, thank you so much for staying invested in this project, for supporting me as a creator, and for looking at the progress on this car. Soon enough, this beast will be on the road and tearing up the streets. Also, I heard that these cars standard can handle up to 1 bar boost without you having to forge or do any real alterations to the motor. So please let me know if you know any more about that information, and we'll tackle the comments in some shorts as well. Okay? So thank you so much for tuning in to Shitbox to Beast with me, Fiki Awesome. Please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next episode.